From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Daryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Tuesday, June 7th, 2016. Silver is trading at $16.26 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,236 per ounce. And according to BitcoinAverage.com, the average price of Bitcoin is $591. Antiwar.com reports the UN has announced it is altering last week's blacklist of violators of children's rights to remove the Saudi-led coalition attacking Yemen amid intense diplomatic pressure from the Saudi government to change the list. The coalition was responsible for an estimated 60% of the children killed in Yemen last year, though Saudi officials insist that any inclusion on the list contradicts previous UN resolutions which endorsed the government the Saudi war intends to prop up. UN officials had previously resisted the Saudi demand to remove them from the list, but backed down pretty quickly when Saudi officials started making statements of outrage about being included. The UN insists the removal is simply pending review, citing Saudi claims of inaccurate data. Saudi officials rejected the claim that any review was pending, insisting that there is no way to put the coalition back on the list under any circumstances. Several human rights groups issued statements criticizing the move, with Human Rights Watch terming it deeply disturbing that the Saudis were able to so easily get themselves removed from the list. The Saudis had similarly managed to avoid criticism of war crimes in Yemen during the UN General Assembly. When her plush and comfy life suddenly and unexpectedly fell apart, Brooke and her dog Cloud set out to defy the odds. If this is a man's world, as they say, living on the streets is no place for a young woman. One day she awoke in the redwood forest and realized she had become a hobo, and would ultimately come to know exactly what it means to survive. How to Be a Hobo by Brooke Willett is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores. UPI reports the U.S. Supreme Court agreed to hear 2 Texas death penalty cases in the next term that raise questions about intellectual disability and delays in execution. In the case of Moore v. Texas, the court is asked to determine whether the state of Texas uses obsolete standards in determining if a defendant's intellectual disability makes him ineligible for the death penalty. The court will also determine whether a convict can remain incarcerated for more than 35 years after being sentenced to death without violating the Eighth Amendment, which prohibits cruel and unusual punishment. Bobby J. Moore has been on death row since 1980. The second case is Buck v. Stevens. Suggestions have been raised that it was tainted by testimony by a Texas Department of Corrections psychologist. In the trial's sentencing phase, the psychologist said Buck is more likely to be a threat to society because of his race and more likely to commit future crimes. Texas law permits the death penalty only if a defendant can be shown by prosecutors to pose a danger to society. In the petition asking the U.S. Supreme Court to review the case, Buck's new lawyer wrote the lawyer in his initial trial was ineffective and that his death sentence was influenced by racial bias. Buck's guilt is not an issue in the Supreme Court review. For nearly 40 years, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals like gold and silver. They also take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and have permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760 or visit online at rrbi.co. Reuters reports a petition calling for the removal from the bench of the judge whose sentencing in a high-profile Stanford University rape case has sparked outrage and attracted close to 100,000 signatures as of Monday. Santa Clara County Superior Court Judge Aaron Pesky last week sentenced former Stanford University student and athlete Brock Turner to 6 months in county jail for the sexual assault of an unconscious and intoxicated woman in January 2015. Opponents have accused Persky of being too lenient on Turner. Persky also attended Stanford, according to a biography provided by the League of Women Voters. The petition calling for his removal from office, posted on change.org on Saturday, attracted over 95,000 signatures by Monday evening. Maria Ruiz, a Miami nurse who authored the petition, said she was outraged when she heard about Turner's sentence. The change.org petition encourages people to file complaints with the California Commission on Judicial Performance. The agency declined to comment, citing the confidentiality of complaints. Ruiz also listed 45 different recipients in the petition, including U.S. Senators Dianne Feinstein and Barbara Boxer. Neither senator has immediately responded to a request for comment. This has been FPP Radio News, online at fppradio.com.